On the Creations is proud to present Ring Ring
Hi,
Hello.
and welcome back to Ring Ring Hello podcast, where we bring you real conversations, real issues, and real solutions. I'm Rebecca, your host, and today we're diving into something that impacts communities across America: funding for crimes victim services. We'll explore what the Victims of Crime Act, VOCA, is, why funding is dwindling, how you can take action to support vital services for survivors, and a public press release statement from Ellen Yackel, the executive director from the Haven Shelter and Services Incorporated, located here in Virginia, which provides services to the Northern Neck region. To kick things off, let's break it down. What is VOCA? The Victims of Crime Act passed in 1984 under President Ronald Reagan, who created the Crime Victims Fund, a non-taxpayer fund collected from criminal fines, penalties, and forfeited bail bonds. This fund is a lifeline for organizations like the Haven Shelter Incorporated, which provide critical services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other crimes. But here's the problem. The fund has been depleting over the past 5 years, and while the VOCA Fix Act of 2024 was passed to help rebuild it, it's only a temporary fix, and it doesn't address the immediate funding cuts many programs are facing right now. As a direct quote from Ellen Yackel, let's discuss the reality on ground. What does this funding crisis mean for real people? It means shelters and advocacy programs are struggling to keep their doors open. It means fewer crisis response staff, fewer advocates to accompany survivors to hospitals or courts, and longer wait times for urgent help. And let's be clear. Let's be clear. This isn't just a bureaucratic issue. Survivors are facing more severe violence, including strangulation and firearm-related abuse, and yet the resources to support them are dwindling. We're talking about life or death situations here. Why this matters to everyone? Some may ask, why should I care? Here's why. Because crime and violence impact entire communities. Everyone. When survivors don't get the help they need, cycles of abuse continue, children grow up in unsafe environments, and communities bear the social and economic consequences. The Haven and organizations like it play a crucial role in breaking these cycles, but they need our help to do it. Alright, here's the part where you come in. This is not just a problem for policymakers, it's something every American can help change. Here's what you can do right now. Contact your representatives, demand that they prioritize stable, long-term funding for VOCA and victim services. Call, email, or even tag them on social media. Support local organizations. If you're in Virginia, consider donating to the Haven Shelter. If you're elsewhere, find your local advocacy groups and ask what they need. Even sharing a post can make a difference. Raise awareness. Share this episode, talk to friends and family, and use your voice on social media to spread the word. The more people who understand this crisis, the stronger the push for solutions. Attend community meetings. Get involved in local town halls or legislative hearings where funding decisions are being discussed. Be the voice that demands action. We are at a critical juncture. Either we step up and protect these essential services, or we allow survivors to fall through the cracks. It's time for action. If you want to learn more or find ways to get involved, check out our show for links and resources. And remember, even one call, one donation, or one conversation can make a difference. Thank you for listening, and let's keep fighting for a safer, more just world. And with closing thoughts, I will be reading the press release statement, Understanding VOCA and Funding Issues, as a direct quote from Ellen Yackel, Executive Director at the Haven Shelter, located in the Northern Neck region of Virginia. VOCA stands for Victims of Crime Act, passed by Congress and signed into law by President Ronald Reagan in 1984. VOCA is a crime victims fund made up of criminal fines, penalties, forfeited bonds, and special assessments collected by the federal government. It is essentially funding for crime victims from fees paid by those who commit crimes. This is not a taxpayer fund. A set amount of the Crime Victims Fund is released each year based on a cap set by the Federal Appropriations Bill. States apply each year for those funds and then distribute them through a grant process to eligible agencies like the Haven. In Virginia, the Department of Criminal Justice Services applies and distributes these funds. For various reasons, the deposits being made into the fund have been dwindling for the last 5 years or so. In 2024, Congress passed the VOCA Fix Act to allow for other funds to be deposited into the VOCA fund for a 5-year period to rebuild the very necessary fund. While it is a possible long-term solution, it does not help with the funds that have been already reduced for many programs across the nation. We have been fortunate that Virginia lawmakers have made victim services a priority and have used state funds as well as American Rescue Plan Act funds allocated to the state to help fill the gaps left by reductions in the VOCA. However, the ARPA funding was temporary and ends this year. The Haven Shelter and Services Incorporated and programs like ours have been making every effort to increase other sources of funding. However, we have also seen a significant increase in demand for services, and the needs of those seeking our services have increased in complexity, requiring additional staff and other resources to effectively meet their needs. Survivors are reporting higher rates of potentially fatal violence, such as strangulation and use of firearms. Survivors are facing greater barriers to building violence-free lives for themselves and their children, such as fewer jobs within our service area that pay a living wage, and a lack of affordable housing options in the area. Additionally, the cost of making advocacy services and shelter available to the community have increased significantly. Our service area lacks the presence of larger corporations that have the resources to provide significant funding to nonprofit programs. Local churches, civic groups, foundations, businesses, and individuals help to sustain a wide variety of nonprofits that are vital to our community. The Haven currently provides 24-hour access to our no-cost services through our toll-free hotline. Unfortunately, we had to reduce crisis response staff who answer the hotline and now depend on the state coalition hotline to answer some of our calls and page on-call staff to respond. While the system works, it is a poor substitute for immediately reaching an advocate who knows the local resources to recommend to a caller and who can assist with safety planning and arrange for emergency shelter if necessary. The Haven's advocacy staff are already struggling to ensure that survivors who need accompaniment to hospitals for emergency treatment due to violence, to courts for civil and criminal cases, and other appointments related to violence they have experienced. There is no fat to trim in our budget. Reducing advocacy or hotline staff further would mean that many survivors would be without the support that they need to address the abuse they are experiencing. Our services save lives. A reduction in services would be a reduction in safety for many in our communities. A very heavy message indeed, and with much gratitude to Ellen for providing me with this press statement. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for being a part of supporting our community, for being a part of the mission to curate a better reality for all. Though this is a heavy burden to bear, as we must come together and support our communities now more than ever. In a modern time, together we can heal America. Thank you for turning on and tuning in to the podcast where no matter your background, you're not alone in a post-COVID world. Until next time, remember, love yourself today. You're worth it.
Will you be calling?